everybody, welcome to the pod. This is episode 4 of Living La Vita Loca podcast. I am Faz.
I'm Rich, and we've got a guest.
We do, and we'd like to introduce Rich's wife. We reached really far downstairs today to find our guest, but we're very excited to have you on, so I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Fiona.
Woo! Yeah,
Clap,
awkward
clap, clap,
round of
clap, clap,
applause.
clap, clap, clap.
Yeah.
There we go, break the new microphone.
Yep. I mean, I wouldn't worry about it. You're very quiet, Fiona.
That's pretty, yeah, well,
New microphone. We've upgraded to actually sitting at a desk like real people.
I feel like I'm being interviewed, if I'm honest.
It's pretty official. It's great. I love it. So this week on the pod, we are going to be reviewing The Sims 2 on PSP.
And we'll be talking about Civilization Revolution 2, which, now I've said it out loud, is a right mouthful.
I think that we've also got a few things lined up that we've just discovered today about PlayStation and maybe some intentions they might have as well around the PlayStation VR, but also maybe PSP Vita.
Yeah, shall I just wade in?
Yeah, go for
Shall I
it.
wade in? So there was an article on Forbes.
Paul Tassi,
Yeah,
the man.
Of
know who
all
he
places,
is.
my phone cheerfully suggested, "Hey, this is a thing you might be interested in. Why don't you read this thing?" And in it, they basically argued that rather than worrying about doing PSVR 2, maybe Sony should be thinking about doing a PSP 2 or a Vita 2 and going back and doing a handheld. So what does everybody think? Like, should they faff with VR? Should they do handhelds? Like,
I know they mentioned in there about using the idea that there's the Switch, and that's what is making fans, I guess, pine for it, maybe for a PlayStation handheld again. It's a bit of a strange situation because here we are sitting saying, oh yeah, PlayStation handhelds, they're fantastic, you should still use them, go back to them, they're great. And it'd be funny if Sony went back and did that themselves, really. That is I don't know whether that's a good idea, because I guess people consider certainly the Vita not a failed console, but something that didn't reach, well, you spoke about it before, didn't reach its full potential.
yeah, there was an article I saw from, I think it was in PC Magazine or something like that a few months ago, that actually said exactly that the Vita was a failure. We all need to wake up.
That's trying to be nice and democratic. About
yeah. The games weren't there. The library wasn't there to make it good. And I think that's what, to me, made the article a bit moot, because it kind of doesn't matter if they do VR or they do a handheld. They need to make sure they're actually putting some fucking games together and putting them out. And if they're not doing that, it kind of doesn't matter what the hardware is.
I think we spoke about it before, and I said the same thing about the Wii U and how I really liked the Wii U, but actually there were no games for it. And then everyone was like, well, we're not paying for it then, and we've got to pay a significant amount of money. And then it died a death, and the Switch is just upgrading it. So, but I mean, obviously you play the Switch quite a lot as well. And do you think that we're going to get into this conversation at some point, but about probably the greatest handhelds, but do you think it's a good idea to try and copy the Switch?
Okay, first I've got to disclose I've got no horse in this race because I've never owned another handheld, so I am a fraud on this sofa. But no, I think the Switch is so specific, and I don't know, I just think it's cornered the market, hasn't it? It's got its own games. I would worry that if Sony were going to do something like that, they would be trying to wedge a load of their games that already exist into it. And the nice thing about the Switch is it's got a whole different set of games that are a bit more chill.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want your sort of like stabby, fighty ones
Yeah,
on a handheld.
End up with a load of God of War,
Yeah.
like portable things again, because we did do that with the PSP, didn't we?
Yeah, I've picked one up this week. It's coming, God of War, at some point, but they're meant to be well reviewed, so hopefully it'll be a good game. But I think that it's interesting because I guess with the PSP initially, Sony were probably chasing what handheld at that point, because DS would have been out, but not that long out. Or were they trying to challenge Nintendo at the time? And obviously, the DS was the best-selling handheld and absolutely destroyed the PSP. Even though the PSP sold really quite well, the DS did even better. I think it sold nearly double the amount of units. So it's like is it, like you said, a good idea to chase that again and go, the Switch is really good. Do we want another Sony handheld to chase it again? I don't know.
I think it's an interesting thought, but I think historically, like since since the SNES until the Switch, I mean, I guess the Wii definitely counts, but Nintendo's Nintendo's home console history was relatively patchy. But when it came to handhelds, like they would constantly smash it, and then Switch comes along and finally it brings everything together. Sony, you look at the PS5. I don't know about you, Fiona, because I know I've been threatening to get one for quite a while, but there doesn't really seem to be anything on it that I want to play. And going back to the Vita library, again, like there's not a lot that sort of grabs me in the same way that stuff on the Switch does. Like you were saying about the games. So I mean, like Final Fantasy, what was it, 16 that we're up to now? Like would that, if that came out tomorrow, would that be enough to make you run out and buy a PS5?
Oh, it's so tricky because I do love those games, but based on the stuff I've seen so far, no, because it seems a bit grim, and he's got a name that's so lame that I keep forgetting it.
Clive?
Clive.
Was it Clive? I think it's Clive.
I'm here for high fantasy, and I'm not sure Clive really sells that. I guess if you live in Japan, Clive is
Cloud Stripe and Clive in it together.
Name.
It is a detective story right between those two guys. Is that not correct?
I hope so. I'd pay to see that. Yeah, that would be the ticket of my entry to a PS5.
Yeah.
The buddy cop
story. Yeah, buddy cop
that nobody asked for.
Stick Phoenix right in there as well.
Yeah, souls.
I think in the article as well, didn't he obviously references and say they should, as you said at the start, probably start guiding themselves away from the VR world almost. And it's like, but they've just invested in the PSVR 2. But being an Oculus Quest 2 owner for 18 months, I expected their fanfare or something.
Ooh,
oh wait, like
18.
Zuckerberg to come in and be like, hey, I don't know. I thought there would be some sort of meta situation.
You didn't make 2 years. You're dead to me.
Yeah, no. Oh yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah. Maybe I am. Oh god, there's a hit out of me from Zuckerberg, and I really enjoyed it. But I remember describing it after about 12 months as unnecessary. Like it felt like a really enjoyable thing to have in my house, but it's so cumbersome. Like they'll say, it's really light and it's really useful. You're not tethered to the computer anymore, and it is, and it's fun. But you need a huge room to be playing it in. Like the amount of times I smashed my fucking hand off the fireplace was numerous, and Vars or something at one point. And the games are great, but they're all independent games pretty much. There's more mainstream games now, but there was nothing that ever felt super AAA. So I was always like, this is great, but then I started to waver and I was like, I want to switch. And then it happened and I got a Switch. And then within a week of having a Switch, I was like, I just want to play Mario Kart all the time, and I'm really happy doing this. I don't need a big massive mask on my face, swinging my arms around with a lightsaber. Like I'd probably just pretend to do that with a stick.
Yeah, and it would be cheaper.
Yeah.
And I think, in fact, what sold me on the Switch, right? It was talking to Paddy, our friend Paddy. Hello, Paddy. Who just put it as simply as, on the Switch, they have fun games. Yeah. And, having bounced between PS3, Xbox 360, PS4, all that kind of stuff, I really felt like I was lacking a bit of fun. Like, genuinely.
Where's the fun in my
I want
life?
some bright colours, silly noises, and like you were just saying, Fiona, it's just a bit more chill when it wants to be. And I was really lacking that. And you know what? Paddy was absolutely fucking right. Like, absolutely bang on.
Don't tell him that.
No, I know. But, he was. And I really think that, however Sony does or doesn't decide to play it next VR or handheld or otherwise, like, they need to put out some good games. Like, and the systems system they currently have, it just doesn't feel like it's there. And then you've got Microsoft on the other hand that's doing a lot of cloud stuff, and you know,
buy an Xbox.
well, again, this article made the point of
Get Game Pass.
Yeah, like getting that on your phone and stuff like that. It's like, well, yeah, you're using the back catalogue, and it's a wide range of titles. I don't need to buy an extra bit of kit. It'll work, and you can see where that's coming from. So I think Sony's got some difficult decisions to make.
I can cloud game Forza Horizon 5 to my phone with a little strap on that sticks. Yep, it's a little strap on. You know what? The big thing gets used for other things. And you strap to your phone, and you can stick your controller to it, and away you go. It's so much fun to be able to, and it's
it's that word again. Fun.
Yeah, and you can tinker, like as in. So I've not really ever kind of gone in for, I can add something to my consoles, or I can add this and stuff. But to be able to, they made it really easy to do that. And you just go, I've got 100 games here on Game Pass, to be able to just, and most of them I can kind of play on my phone. And some of them, like Fable, for example, you don't even need a controller. You can literally just play, like, without anything really. Like, I think your console even just tells us to do it. I think I can just go on my app right now and start playing Fable. And I'm like, how much fun is that? And I'm paying for that, but not much. It's £10 or £11 a month or whatever it is. It's amazing, really. So yeah, fuck off, Sony. You've do some work.
We're all wasting our time here.
Do some work. But we love the old Sony, so that's fine. That's all okay.
I don't know, like that article from a couple of months ago where it said about, we all need to. It didn't say it as bluntly as we need to get a grip. Like the library was awful, but we need to get a grip. The library was not great. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a good segue into some reviews, doesn't it?
Yeah, sounds great.
Talking of not great.
Talking of not great. I guess that means, well, I don't know. Was your review not great? Because
I mean, mine was passable.
Okay.
It sounded a damn sight better than yours.
Mine was not. So, I am reviewing The Sims 2 on PSP. Now, you'd think that The Sims would be something that would be quite universal and they'd do a good job of doing. So, Maxis and EA came out in 2006, I think it was. And it's a very strange game because, unlike all the other Sims, it actually has a story to it. So I was quite excited to play that because when I first got onto it, it was like, you're in a car driving through the desert and your tyre pops and you get dropped off at a local garage, and this garage clearly has some weird nefarious things going on. It's almost like you're in like a sort of weird Bermuda Triangle, Area 51 situation.
What?
Yeah, I know. So, well, I mean, on that, like, within the first minute of the game, the garage disappears along with your car, and you're stuck in the middle of nowhere at this little sort of shack shop, and you've got to sell secrets to make money. And these little secrets are kicking around on the map, and these secrets are things like all like about trolls' heads and spirits and stuff. And it's a very eerie game, and that's all a bit weird, but actually it's quite compelling to think, this is going to be a bit strange.
It sounds like a B-movie horror.
It really is. The problem with the game is that it's really fucking unplayable. Like, to the point where I'm so angry about this game. Like, I really am. Like, as in, I cannot believe that this has managed to make it over as a port to the PSP. And, obviously I know it's a lot of years later now, but you can't play it. The load times on this game for animations are just astronomical. They're like, I think I timed one to go to sleep and like to perform the function of pressing go to sleep, and then for me to then have another action with that person. 66 seconds. 66 seconds just to hear you and D whirring around in the back of the PSP, and then see your sim try to spin round to take his clothes off, but get stuck halfway through the animation and just lie in bed. And I was like, okay, I'll be a little bit forgiving to start off with. Maybe it's just because, I don't know, like the game's not ported very well. It's a little bit old and stuff. But at the same time, to kind of try and play through that for 5 hours and waste my life doing that was really hard for me. There was other points where I guess the main game mechanic is that you interact with other Sims, which is what you do on the main Sims games. but it's almost, and Fiona described it before when she had a little playthrough, was like, it's like a bop it sort of situation where you press square, X or circle as quick as you can to interact with the correct icon that they're telling you they are. So for example, they're into skiing, so you've got to see where skiing is on your square, X or circle, and then you press that as quick as possible can. That's fine, but the game judders and judders is juddering word, juddering and shuddering, and it stops working, and whilst you're trying to do something as quick as you possibly can, the game can't keep up with you doing that. So you're like, oh great, so then you lose points, I guess what you'd call it, of how well you've interacted with this person, and then your bar won't go up. So again, I'm describing this really well. There's a bar in the top right hand corner that you have to fill with your interaction with this person. So say it's a romantic conversation and you want to put your romance points up, then you have to fill that bar up all the way to the top. Not just even like 80%. It's either all or nothing. And you'll get, even if you get to 80 or 90%, that conversation's failed. And you start to lose sim sanity, which is something else that's judged. And if you lose all your sim sanity, then you faint and you lose 500 simoleons or whatever, simoleons or whatever they are.
Yeah.
Din dollars. Some din dollars. You lose some din dollars. And so then you've only got a certain amount of din dollars as well. So it's all anyway, whatever, the sim money. And you lose all that. And that's annoying as well. But then even if you do really well at these conversations and you get 100%, you do as quick as you possibly can, and the game runs up to the speed it should do while you're doing it, if that sim does not want to interact with you and you still get up to 100%, it'll still kind of go, wah, 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 and it's like, oh no, that person just didn't want to be interacting with you that time. I'm sorry, what the fuck? Like, is it like, tell me that. Tell me beforehand. Don't let me lose items or things because of that. That's not my fault. That is in, if I don't know exactly where the story is going in that scenario, why should I have to suffer for that? So yeah, that's, I guess, the start for 10 on what is wrong with this game. You feel free to chip in if you want.
Well, I've got one. Very eloquent, obviously, but I can't get past you saying SimSanity like it's some kind of 90s band.
I mean, if they were, they would be, who would be a terrible 90s band that's like, probably a cover of Ace of Base. Like, just a really bad cover of Ace of Base. It's really frustrating, this game. And I thought I'm going to try and give it a go as much as possible for the good of the pod, obviously, and for the good of mankind, for all 25 people that will listen to this. I'm sure that
it's a noble endeavour.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of got a little bit further into the story, and I was trying. It's a tiny bit compelling. I think when I call it a story, it's probably more just a loose sort of bunch of threads that kind of hang together through your sim, but not really. And you're trying to solve a bit of a mystery around who might have gone missing. And there's some really strange goings on in this town, and it's not like the normal Sims at all. I remember playing Sims Vacation, and that's probably the last Sims I played, I think, properly. And I really enjoyed that game. I felt like I was on holiday during that game. I love the song for it. Is it? And even
seared into your memory.
Yeah, even the loading screens on that, where it's like, oh, you're going on holiday, and it'd be like on the PC, and it'd like take 15 minutes to load into, I guess, the community. And even then, that you're like, oh, this is jazzy, this is fun, I feel like I'm having a good time. And then you can just wander about with your sim, and you go like, you go snowboarding or something. That was great, loads of fun. This game, your goals are weird. So that's another thing as well. You've got goals, you've got urgencies, and you've got sim sanity to keep up. Sim sanity is kept up by having positive interactions with other sims, which is very difficult to do because the game doesn't run well, and also it's very difficult to do. Full stop. The other ones, urgencies, are things like, oh, you need to go to bed, or you need to go wash your hands. So they just become arbitrary things you have to go and do. And it's like, all right, you now need to go and look in the mirror. And it's, it's like, okay.
You've never had that?
Look at me, no. And then the other one, so the goals are then, Hazel Dente is acting weird, and Gimli is locked in a cupboard. I mean, these are actual names in the game, like locked in a cupboard in a house. Go and talk to her husband. But the very first one's the weirdest one. So you interact with all the Sims, you die a couple of times or faint a couple of times because you haven't quite worked out what to do yet, even after you've read the manual that's in the game box. And then you go to someone's house, he's an inventor, and then he's like, I want you to socialise with my wife. And you think, okay, fair enough, that's fine. And he's like, really socialise with my wife. And I'm like, okay.
That's not right.
Which is weird. Yeah, okay, that is weird. I mean, it's even more weird that his wife is just a sex robot, and then she then asks, and the game, you cannot avoid this. You have to romance this sex robot. That is a goal. That is in. So even if you're uncomfortable with that, which I'm not, but even if you're uncomfortable with that, you have to do that. And then also on top of that, then she then asks you to go and find a file in another inventor's house.
In her hard drive.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Well, sort of. And then that would then liberate her from her bondage of being a slave wife, but then she ends up loving her husband anyway. And
that's a lot.
It is. And that's just one goal.
So this is like, it seems like this is trying to do too many things. Like, from what you've described, I'm getting, they've tried to do Detroit Become Human about 10 or 15 years too early.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it would have been a great kind of eldritch horror, kind of like Cthulhu, like you're in a weird town. Yeah, but it's just the execution's really crap.
Yeah. It's
So whenever I played The Sims, I used to play Sims 2 quite a lot, and I played it properly. I'd build a house, I would try and kill everybody in a swimming pool by taking out the steps, or I would burn it down.
My husband, everyone.
Yeah. Can you still do that? Because it sounds like you're stumbling around trying to appease other people's sex robot wife related whims rather than wrecking lives.
I think that you can. So in the 5 hours that I played, and Fiona remarked on it before, like I hadn't put anything into my house yet, but I hadn't had time.
You hadn't gone and bought a chest of drawers.
No, I couldn't. I don't think I had time to do it. I was freaking out about having to like meet somebody.
My whims.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, an urgency. Oh, what's my urgency? Oh, increase your mechanic skill by 1 point. How do I do that? Go and watch the only television in the weird fucking village. So you're like, right, which house has a television in again? Right, okay, it's this house. So you got to go to that house. Go to watch the television. Sit down. Okay, press use to sit down. Yes, press use. 15 minutes later, sit down. Oh, press turn on the TV. Click. That's the UMD going down, but then also could be like, a noise for the
sex robot.
And also, the sex robot, which I've not bought. And you sit down and then you watch the television, and then and then it becomes international track and field. Tap circle as quickly as possible to get mechanic points. So your sim is virtually watching a spanner on a TV screen that you can't see very well because the graphics are terrible. and then you just tap in, you tap. Okay, there we go. Right, okay, there's your mechanic point.
You are now a mechanic.
Yeah. Oh, you need 3 mechanic points, but you can't watch the television too long because you get headaches, so you've got to go back to sleep, so you've got to come out of the house, go to your house, go back to that house, get another mechanic point, then you can do the next goal. It's possibly the worst game I've ever played.
Jeez. So, instead of, being dumped in this place and an urgency being along the lines of find food and shelter, it's like, I must suddenly become a mechanic.
I mean, there are a couple of urgencies like that, but they're mixed in with stupid
bullshit
stuff. Yeah. And there was one that was like, oh, dance. And I was like, how do I dance? There's no way.
We've all had that.
It sounds like a metaphor to me.
The whole thing sounds like a metaphor. It sounds like you accidentally played some kind of dystopian commentary.
Yeah.
It's Britain in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
The screen was never on.
Yeah, this is all just your fevered imagination.
And so I was trying to dance. I turned the jukebox on. And I'm like, where's the function? And then a ghost chased him out my own house. And
I saw the ghost when I played it. He had no clothes on.
No. Why the old kid? I'm so sad.
But do you not get to do any of the fun stuff? Because the best bit about The Sims is always, aside from obviously the elaborate death and destruction, But you could choose. That was the whole selling point, wasn't it? Do whatever you want and have a better life, or often exactly the same fucking life, but just you actually do the dishes on the virtual world version. But like, do you not do you not get to choose the career and things if it's a story? You just railroaded.
So you don't become a mechanic like as a career type thing. You just dabble.
You try and fix a bin lorry. I mean, the bin lorry. I don't know why. Like, and it's like everyone's really strange. Like, I don't know why. I mean, I get they've kind of gone for that concept. It's like, oh, all the Sims are a bit crazy. It's all a bit kooky. And one of the best bits is one of the inventors suddenly becomes an actual supervillain. Like, you go into his house and you learn the mechanic skill to move a bookcase, and then you go into his evil lair, and in his evil lair, I can't remember what it's called, like Super Fantastic Man or something like that, and then he has you under a spell, and you've got to do exactly what he wants, and they're your urgencies, but you can clear that by going to bed. When people are like, I have no words, I have many words for this game.
You do have quite a few words.
And they're not nice.
I'm quietly impressed you stuck with it for as long as you did.
Yeah.
By the sounds of it.
For the good of the pod.
For the good of the pod.
For the greater good.
Do you want to do some arbitrary numbers, or are you got more?
You can probably guess where my average numbers are, but they're very much in the low
single digits.
Zeros.
Gives you a lot of wiggle room on a 1 to 10 scale, admittedly. But...
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 1, and
right.
And that's because I guess I could give it a 0, but I'm going to give it a 1 just because the concept was a little bit interesting in so much that it was like, oh well, you're in this strange place and you've got some strange goings-ons, and
it's a bit David Lynch or something.
Yeah,
like that,
very much so. Yeah, very Twin Peaks, and it's like that is in, but very Scooby Doo in its execution. So, bad one, Shaggy.
So arbitrary numbers out of 10 for how angry you are.
All of them. All of the numbers.
All the numbers.
So I'm going to stop talking for a while because we're already halfway through the pod and I've just ranted like a madman.
That sounded healthy for you though.
Yeah, I do feel a lot better. I think I've had an aneurysm, but I don't know.
Well, if you start like tapping circle or something when we're not looking.
I need to go home so I can go watch some television just by tapping furiously.
To learn how to be a medical professional.
Oh, I do want to say one more thing though, was that I discovered a cheat after about 3 hours where you press about 3 buttons and it gives you unlimited, it resets your urgencies, it gives you unlimited money, it gives you unlimited sim sanity. I wish I'd discovered that earlier, but also what's the point in that? Like, why are you playing the game?
The win cheat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's so easy. Go on the menu and press R, square, and start or something.
Did you look this cheat up? Like, did you go looking for it?
Oh yeah, I googled it because I thought I hate myself right now. Yeah, I want to just be able to see. Is there a possibility to do this game? So I looked up to walkthrough, and then you Google it, and the next thing down was Sims 2 cheats, and then Sims 2 PSP cheats, and it was like one cheat, and the only cheat was win game. But and then I won't lie, I then looked up on Wikipedia the end of the game because I was never going to get there, and it sounds really quite hard. Like it sounds like you go into somewhere similar to Area 51, and you've got to go and like almost. In a game where there is no action and you don't fight somebody, it sounds like you've got lots of mini games you have to complete, almost a bit like sort of, like the Minotaur. You've got to like go into this maze and sort of find your way out of it and stuff. And I was like, I'm so glad I didn't do that because I don't think I'd have this PSP anymore. There'd be more than a scratch on it.
R.I.P.S.P.
Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, you good?
Should we talk about beers? At this point, that might be nice. Palate cleanser.
What are you drinking, Faz?
I am drinking Vocation again. We drank Vocation last time, which I'm not upset about that. Obviously, that's made it sound like we drank Vocation last time, but that just shows that we're really happy. But it's actually a mix with Brew York. So Vocation Brew York. It's called Sweet Temptation. It's a chocolate caramel stout, and it is fantastic. It's very bubbly actually for how I'd have a stout, but that's not bad for me. I quite like a little bit of fizz in my pop. So yeah, it tastes great. Tastes exactly like what it says it does. So 7%. So that might be why I'm going west. Taribo West. That is, yeah. How about you guys? Go on, Rich. What you got?
I've got one from Northern Monk. It's a Northern Star the chocolate caramel and biscuit porter, which ticks many of my boxes.
Ticks along nicely.
Ticks them pretty well. There was one near Christmas, like the Naughty But Nice ones that I can't remember who did it. Were they Vocation as well? Maybe?
Yeah. We are sponsored by Vocation
I was gonna
Brewery.
Get in touch, guys. Yeah, damn. But it kind of reminds me of that, which is definitely a compliment. So, yeah.
Awesome.
What about you, Fiona?
I have a North Brewing Co. Pinata, which is a mango and guava pale ale, and it's very nice.
Good. And it's very nice.
It's very
Buy
nice.
it
We will
now.
take that.
You want to be simple and honest with your advertising.
Oh yeah, sure.
I went to North Brewing with our good friend Liam. I think it was just maybe 2000, maybe just after lockdown. It must have been, and you had your table and you get allocated table and things. And it was this time of year, and the exact same thing's happening this year, where April is so cold, like it's in like so far. Like outside, it's just freezing. I mean, it was nice today for the first time in the UK.
Yeah, once the frost lifted.
Yeah. Oh my god! Don't get me started on that. Like car this morning, frosted again.
Did you have to
like,
tap circle really
Yes,
quickly?
Oh, I will be tapping out on live soon. But just going to your frosty car in April is really annoying. And then, but yeah, and I remember sitting outside North Brewing and being possibly the coldest I've been for a long, long time. We were sat in like ski jackets and like hats, but then I accidentally put shorts on because it was the exact same thing this time, where it was like the day was warm but it was freezing cold at night. But it was just glad to be out because it was after lockdown. And I remember thinking this, I must have drank about 7 or 8 pints sat there and really needing that beer jacket. So yeah, good times at North Brewing. So good beers and really nice place to go. So if you ever get a chance to go check out Springwell and go and sit there, then definitely recommend it.
Shall we do some Civ?
Yes, please.
As it were.
Yeah, give me a good game or something.
Give you a good game. Right.
I'm not sure it's that.
Well, no, I would kind of disagree. So do you want to go first or shall I, Fiona?
Shall I do the bad and you can
Yeah, all right. Yeah,
try and win me
I'll
round?
polish it up.
I made some frantic notes because I realised that Faz has notes. So
Mine are also frantic, so it's okay.
No, it's okay. I'll go through them in order. I guess I should start with I really like Civ 6, which I think is a lot of where my problems with this come from. It is not Civ 6. So I acknowledge I'm biased. So the tutorial, however, is one of the worst tutorials I've ever experienced. I think it was about 5 goes, which for context, I think Civ games can take you like hundreds and hundreds of goes to complete, so it doesn't really give you much chance. It made me, I think, walk a little warrior over a few steps to a map where he looked at a nice thing. That does not equip you in any way for a game where you need to make different types of things or even manipulate more than one unit or switch between cities or make choices about your technology. None of that's in the tutorial. It's just like, you get it right, guys, off you go.
You'll be fine.
Yeah, how hard can an empire be?
Yeah,
anyway?
You haven't got an entire civilization to run.
Yeah. So, lost marks there. Okay, this is a really nerdy one. So you might have to cut this out if it's really boring.
You're in the right place.
Yeah, like podcast talking about Civ, you'll be fine.
So, and I still blame the tutorial for this, but the production is really annoying. So in Civ, how it works is you have your little city and you have various kind of resources that you can use to progress your civilization. So if you get lots of culture, you can develop certain things. I think in this version of the game, it just makes your culture a little bit more cultured, which rings a little bit weird. In 2023, like your advisors at some point are like, your citizens are disgusting. It's like, oh, okay, well, maybe they're doing better things than reading. I don't know.
Did you find that the whole thing felt a bit awkward like that, though, especially with like the barbarians and a lot of the caricatures and things like that?
We're coming to that.
Cool.
I do have a note that says boobs, so we'll return to that one.
Right.
Oh no! I'll wait to find out.
Oh no.
And one of these really key things, because there's money as well, there's science, which is how you develop your technologies, and a really key one is production, which is how you basically build things in your cities. So the more kind of production income you have, the more quickly you can make your stuff, which can make a huge difference in terms of actually winning the bloody thing. So the production in this game, which I hadn't realised, so Civ 6, it can come from a number of different sources, but you've always got a little bit in your cities to start with. And the idea is that you can skew your cities a little bit. So if you're clever, you can optimise them to produce science, or you can optimise them to produce gold, or you can boost the production. It's all, tied into what sort of victory you're trying to get. But in this version of the game, the Civ Revolutions 2?
Civilization Revolution 2, yeah.
Catchy.
That's Eminem's second album.
Yeah. This one, the production comes from really specific types of land on the tiles that you can settle near. And I think it's like mountains and like rocky land, which I didn't know because the tutorial, as we covered, didn't talk about any of this. So I merrily go off and I dump my city near the sea because I'm like, this looks beautiful.
Yeah.
There will be fish. There will be land. I will be able to attack from the sea. I will be a force to be reckoned with. And then it's like, oh, actually, there's no production on any of these tiles around it.
Oh.
So my city basically can't build anything ever. And as far as I can tell, in the little bit I played it,
Same game.
It doesn't. It doesn't really expand either. Whereas in Civ 6, part of the game is getting extra tiles as your city grows bigger. This one seems to be quite static, so the number of people go up, so that kind of makes you more efficient. But the actual space you're in doesn't, because it's a really small map, which is another problem because you're on everyone's doorstep all the time. And yeah, I just had this defunct city that was just sat there.
Sounds like Britain in the 70s. And loads of high rises in. It's like, oh.
Well, that's the thing, because I played the first Civilization Revolution on the Xbox 360, right? And at the time, Civilization, you could only play it on PC. So to be able to play it on an Xbox, I would be lying through my teeth if I said, oh yeah, I was really excited to play it on my Xbox. I fucking wasn't, right? I saw it cheap in a sale, took a punt on it, and really enjoyed it. And it's one of the success stories from the 360 era for me. And I, for years, had thought that the version on Vita was just Civilization Revolution and they just ported it. But it is a sequel. So to jump from 6 to that, it feels so restricted. And the cities, there's no visual representation that they're really developing. They don't seem to go anywhere. They're weirdly static anyway.
Yeah.
And at least with Civ 6, you have that kind of visual feedback, I guess, that things are progressing and they are moving and they are changing.
Is that just
Revolution? No.
Is it a result of it being on a handheld and it feels like they've just kind of said, oh, we're going to have a bit of a mini game? Or is it just because it, like a sign of the times, that it's grown into a better game now, Civ 6?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think you can... Civ 6, it's got, more power behind the visuals and things like that. You can see things like little aqueducts with water moving over it and things. And obviously you're not going to get that in something from this era. But yeah, I just think it smacks of a game that really probably should have been a bit of a mobile game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. I think this one was Vita and Android.
Oh yeah, it
and
was, wasn't it?
iOS.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that as an iOS
This is an
thing.
exclusive, isn't it? Especially, effectively, apart from obviously being a mobile, which is, that's probably why it's
Quite
so
possibly.
immobile.
But to go back to what we were saying at the start, Vita's library had quite a few phone ports in it, for better or worse. And I think this is one of those ones where, if you bought it off of an app store and tinkered with it for a bit, you'd be perfectly happy with it.
Yeah.
But when you got Civ 6 on the Switch, which has definitely spoiled us, I think, then it feels a bit pared back.
Yeah, and it's not intuitive. And there's nothing to help you at the start. And then when you go on the internal help, that doesn't help you much either. I was like, oh my God, what's happening here with these things that I've got? How do I use them? And then you go onto it and it just tells you what the unit is called and what it does, but not how you do it. I also accidentally produced 17 submarines at one point
Oh,
because
fucking hell, yeah, that was... Oh, God.
because what I didn't realise
Back
is
to
that
70s Britain.
yeah, exactly.
Trident, get it.
Churn them out. But like when she set a city to make something, again in Civ 6 my experience has always been like, you make the one thing magically pops up, and then it goes, what would you like me to make next, so bountiful master? And you're like, ha ha ha, I control your will, make this one, bitches.
My life, everybody.
and then that's why I like the game. But yeah, in this version it just keeps going. So if you forget that you've churned out submarines, it doesn't even necessarily always remind you to use each of your units every turn. Okay. So you can just look back at a city you've ignored for a few turns and be like,
oh,
I've got a fleet. What am I going to do with this? I only wanted one.
I'm landlocked and they're in the lake.
Yeah, at one point I got it stuck in like a little thing that I couldn't get them out of, and then I couldn't delete them either. They're just there forever. So I've got these like, there's this sea of like haunting submarines just like circulating with no purpose.
I ended up using a galley as a bridge because I couldn't get it out of a lake.
This is where you need the Sims, where you can just lock them in and put the firework and
yeah, exactly.
Blow them up. So, my question is, I guess, probably moving away from the game on the handheld, is you've talked about Civ 6 and using that and on the Switch. So I know that I can get that on Game Pass, for example, for free, which I'm going to play because of you guys saying how good it is. Like, so how does that play on the Switch as a handheld then?
There are some performance issues with it, but I think because we will quite often play it 2-player, and the maps are significantly bigger than anything on Vita. Even on the Vita, like that version's still got its fair share of performance hiccups, right? Yeah. I think that's fair. The Switch version definitely has the odd crash. It definitely hitches occasionally, all that kind of stuff. But overall, the visual presentation is much stronger. The gameplay is, I feel, vastly superior to Civilization Revolution 2. I'm going to short like Civ Rev 2.
Civ Rev 2.
Civ Rev 2. It's also got Sean Bean in it. You know, Yorkshire's favourite son.
I mean, that's
Don't care what anybody
says.
10
10 out of 10, yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Arbitrary units, get it.
Yep.
Get it up there.
Whereas
Tis but a gift.
Yep. Civ Rev 2, nothing. They all speak basically what almost Simglish kind of kind of stuff.
Sean Bean. Yorkshire tea.
Sean, could you use real words, please?
No.
And I think as well, Civ 6, like it seems to me that they went out of their way to give you interesting people and interesting countries to play as. And so you have like Scotland, Australia, you know, the kind of places that earlier in the series they probably wouldn't necessarily have thought of using. So you've got all of these you know, interesting people to play as, but it feels kind of like they're almost rehabilitating some of them from Revolution 2. Like there's a lot of caricatures that feel a bit heavy-handed. Like some of the barbarians are, you know,
Barbaric.
very stereotypical. You know, uncomfortably so. And so I mean, you know, it's kind of nice that in Civ 6 they seem to treat everybody with a bit more of an even hand.
Okay.
And I've just spotted Fiona's boobs note again, which feels like a good segue from caricatures.
Boobs now.
Yeah. The note is boobs. They were there. Not on all of them. Like, you know, Lincoln didn't have a massive pair or anything like that.
You don't know that.
Just kept him hidden.
Yeah, but So there's not. There are, in all fairness, there's a few female leaders, which is nice. But when I kind of came across a couple of them, so when you meet the other civilizations, their leader like pops up on the bottom of your screen, flails their arms around and like garbles at you, and then, you know, says hello, well met, kind of thing. And yeah, I still got no idea what Elizabeth I said to me, because all I could look at was her cartoony boobs, because they were massive,
Yeah.
but they were also very badly rendered. So like she had see I don't know how to describe this, and especially not on a podcast, but like, do you know the sort of top of the boobs that's like, if you have like a sweetheart neckline, right, on a dress.
I'm going to smile and nod.
I'm just reading the room here. Somebody out there knows what it is. It's like the top of a heart shape. Basically, kind of like, it was very clear where the animators, it was almost as if like when making the 3D models, they'd done the 3D equivalent on a computer of like, if you've got a lump of clay and you've got a clay body and you've rolled 2 little clay ball shapes, the boobs, and you just smack them on the front, you could see where the joins were. Like, it was really distracting, and they were quite big. And Cleopatra was definitely...
Were they coming at
pretty
you?
disrespectful. Like, they really were coming from all directions.
When will they stop?
They've taken over civilization as we speak.
Yeah, it was just, and I think in Civ 6, that's another good example of one that's like been rehabilitated a bit, because I'm pretty sure she's in that too, and I'm pretty sure she's still like, you know, Sultry Queen of the Nile, because that's the sort of famous historical impression, isn't it? Mm. But crucially, she looks a bit more like, you know,
a real person.
A real person, and like they haven't just made her to gawk at. Yeah, a small footnote really, I guess, considering when it was made and stuff as well. You know, things have come a long way, haven't they? Both in terms of computer modelling boobs and the need to see them.
Yeah. I mean, what is it, about 10 years old now?
Yeah, give or take. And I think that's...
Pre-Me Too? Is that what we're saying then?
It's not an excuse though, is it, guys? Come on. I think we all knew it wasn't okay.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I think, like, very much a product of its time was ultimately where I kind of ended up on this thing, because like I was saying, I'd previously only played anything like that on the Xbox 360, so to have it in the palm of your hand, you know, was great. And I would be lying if I said I'd played much of it back in the day, but still it was good that it was there. And again, with the having it on Switch or Game Pass and all that kind of thing, you know, you can have it in the palm of your hand still.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If Civ 6 had gone back to being PC only, Civilization Revolution 2 still might be, you know, best if not only way of playing Civilization on a handheld. Now it's not. Yeah. And you know, we've got much better. And
do you think it kind of paved the way to be able to say that this can exist on a handheld?
Yeah, I think so, because I think historically the games have always been kind of grid based and things like that, but I think Revolution was so called because it was, you know, an attempt to stick it on a console and see if they could, you know, map everything to controllers and things like that. So I think in that respect the plaudits have to go to the first game rather than the second, and the second's very much a retread with some extra bits. I mean, we haven't really touched on the scenario mode or anything like that.
No, that's true. That was better.
Yeah, there are some interesting spins on the kind of standard, you know, explore or conquer kind of formula. Because in the main game, again, compared to Civ 6, a lot of the stuff like economic victories or you know, diplomacy, things like that, are very, very simplistic. Like there's no real impetus to explore any of those mechanics. And so I don't know about you, Fiona, but I would regularly, almost by accident, default to just ruining everybody and killing everything, because it was just it was an easy pattern to get into.
Yeah.
Whereas in the scenario mode, it kind of forced you to think a little bit more and engage with the things. And it's almost more like a puzzle game in places. Then I realised I could just be playing Civ 6 and engaging with the mechanics I want to engage with, and you know, the diplomacy is a bit more interesting and things like that.
This hasn't been a good week for reviewing games.
Hasn't been
and going
great.
back to our handhelds, has it?
No, it's definitely like
Fiona.
I'm never going to be allowed back.
but it definitely makes you realise how far we've come. And how spoilt we are, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
In some respects, you know, being able to play Game Pass stuff on your phone and all that. So, I mean, for arbitrary numbers, if I was reviewing Civ Rev 2, nearer when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would quite happily give it a 7 or something like that.
All right, okay.
Reviewing it in 2023, like it's a 5. This is
Yeah.
as close to a distinctly average experience I had.
It's not bad though.
Five's not bad. I still had some fun with it, but it was some fun. And ultimately, Sims made you feel angry. Civ Rev 2, I kind of like, it's there, it's fine. I would hesitate to say I feel nothing for it, but like it exists. I too exist, and there is a simple beauty in that.
Wow, put on a mug.
Yeah, I might.
What about you, Fiona? Would you give it the same sort of number, or more or less?
I agree. There's a distinction. Like I think at the time I'd have been more impressed. I think both of these games that we've looked at probably are quite important in terms of that, I guess, proof of concept that something, because if you think about the numbers, and what's always impressed me about Civ and also the Sims as well is that for however silly they are, there's an awful lot of stuff grinding away in the background to enable you to really control the game in a way that your sort of first person shooters just don't need. So there's a lot going on behind there, and just proving that could be done on a handheld is probably quite a good thing. Disclaimer, don't know if this was actually of any kind of import, or if several had already happened that had proved the point, but let's give it some credit, I guess. Benefit of the doubt. But I think now it just didn't grab me. It was shonky getting me into it. For a very technical game, it didn't give me enough. We're not in the era of manuals anymore, even when this was released, so it's a bit unforgivable that it doesn't tell you what to do. I don't like losing.
I think there's like a digital manual on it. I've not looked to see if it's any good.
No, it's no good. I tried that.
Oh, right, okay.
And I think some of the core mechanics seem just really poorly balanced. Like the fights and stuff, you can be a higher level than the barbarians and they still punch your lights out for no reason.
Oh, I'm still fucked off that my jets got shot down by those pikemen.
Exactly. We'll never know how.
That was bullshit.
But it's things like that make you feel like what's the point? Why would I bother like grinding all of this? And it was a grind, but I've given it an extra point back for the scenarios because Rich has reminded me that they were actually kind of good. And I think, actually, if the game were just the scenarios, it'd be much more playable as like a more mobile thing. Dip in, do a cool little scenario, because some of them were really cool. Like you had to settle Alpha Centauri, didn't you?
Yeah,
and
or like
doing Space Race.
Repel invaders in Korea and stuff like that.
Yeah, really
like,
specific little targeted things. But I think as it is, it's a 4.
Okay, cool. It's interesting because I find that when I've been dabbling in other games the last few weeks as well, that scenario based / party / the shortened version, a different twist on a game, tends to be quite a good way of playing these games on a handheld. So to give an example, I've just started playing Battlefront 2 again on the PSP, and rather than the main game that was on PlayStation 2, there are the same sort of mechanics and same ideas around it, but there are scenario-based ways to play the game, and they're quite fun. And a similar sort of thing where you go to different planets and stuff, and you have to do different goals, and that will come up on the pod at some point. But I've noticed that it's like, that's the fun part of the game. That's the bit that I'm really enjoying. So it is interesting to know that actually, when these consoles were released, that they seem to be or developers have sort of went, actually, maybe we should have a shortened version, a bit of a different twist on it, like your G&T with lime. And it's like, the lime's good. I don't drink gin and tonic, do I? I don't know.
I'd never really appreciated those sorts of bits of games before now, but I might have to start paying a bit more attention to them. Although one thing that I did want to ask the room, seeing as we've got a couple of minutes left, it was like, because these are, I guess, in Civ's case, you can kind of play it forever. I'm assuming, full fact, that Sims, you definitely can. I'm assuming the Sims you've played on PSP would, in theory, have a fair bit of runtime. But I kind of want to know, like, what games you've actively decided to walk away from.
Yeah, this is a difficult question, because are you suggesting that the game is no good?
No, like the opposite, I think.
Okay.
If anything, so
that's hard, but
the one that comes to mind for me is Bloodborne, right?
Okay.
So like Bastard Hard, right? But I played it soon after it first came out. A friend from work was playing it through at the same time. Hi, Barney. You will probably never listen to this, but hi, Barney. And we were kind of like dragging each other through it and comparing notes and doing co-op where we could and all that kind of stuff. And it was really, really good fun. But I played too much of it in too short a time. It was too intense. And I got to the stage where, like, towards the end, I could have gone on and, like, you know, done the last extra bit of game and got the best ending and all that bollocks. But I was just tired, man. Like, I got
I've seen too many things.
I got given an opportunity to get out, and I took it. and I got an ending. I got an ending. But yeah, and my friend described it as like being war weary. I was like, you know what? That's what it was. It was. I was tired.
I can imagine in my head I've got you like leaving the Truman Show, like going up the steps and like,
yeah,
come on, Rich, you can do it. Like,
I'll tell you what, right? And I thought of trying to frame this conversation with like, you know, not games that you got tired of, whereas clearly I got tired of Bloodborne, but like because of the role playing elements, light though they are in Bloodborne, it still felt right for the character, considering all the things I'd seen, you know, and things I'd done, you know, you know, having that out, it seemed right.
Yeah.
And you know, as a role playing game, there is part of me that's like, well, I can't go back now. That's like a betrayal of that character and that story, which is obviously stupid. But nonetheless, you know, it was an active decision to like leave it there and feel comfortable with that. So, is there anything? You know, like that lurking in your collective gaming cupboards?
Yeah, I mean, I've now you posed the question, I've got a couple, I think. Similar sort of thing where it's probably a bit of a large game, really, and I'm sure some people have felt this as well with Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, yeah.
And how vast that game is. I think I'm sat on about 27% complete. I got past the start chapter and chapter 2, I think, and you move camps to different chapters.
Yeah.
And I just decided I didn't want to play it anymore. I was having when I get on it, I'm having a great time. You know, it's really, it's so in depth and thick, like a really good soup.
Yeah, but I feel like I can't play it if I haven't got like 3 or 4 clear hours to sit there and play it. You know,
but then I also feel like I'm done with it. Like even like I'm just like I don't need to go back and finish that story. I feel like I got
your money's worth.
Yeah, I got probably like I think I'm up to about 21 hours on it. And when I say up to, because I could go back to it, and I tried to go back to it probably as recently as 3 months ago, and I've been back to it a few times. But I keep on going back for an hour and go, I'm okay, I'm fine. I don't even need to come back for this hit. I don't even think, you know, like, oh, I should probably go and check on my Red Dead Redemption save and see where I am. Like, and it's not so much a difficulty getting back in. Actually, it's quite an easy game to get. Like, once the mechanics are okay, you maybe spend 10-15 minutes getting back to it, but generally you kind of go, well, actually, this is fine, I'm back into it. But an hour later, I'm like, oh, I don't need to be back into it. So,
could be doing something else.
Yeah, exactly. So, and another game that I guess I'm ashamed of what I'm saying here as well, because I shouldn't.
No.
But so the Resident Evil 2 remake, that was something that that's probably, I really want to go back to this game, that Resident Evil 2. And the remake's meant to be very good, and it is really well reviewed. I think it got like Game of the Year accolades and things. I played past the first liquor, like as in, and I was like, don't need any more. All right, thank you, cheers. And I was like, £20. Should do more than 2 hours. You know, and everyone's like, it's really good. Yeah, have you got this bit? And I'm like, you know, yeah, got to that bit. You know, I mean, who hasn't done that in their life where they're like, I've done that. You know, like, and just like, yeah, or Mr. X, yeah. You know,
smashed him, mate.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's not even in it. Right, but I haven't gone past 2 hours, I don't think, in that game, and do I have ambitions to go back to it? not really. I feel like I might be a bit scared.
That's fair. That's fair. I think being afraid of it is a legitimate reason not to spend your time with it.
Yeah.
Witcher 3.
Sorry,
I just thought of Witcher 3 as well. Like,
oh, right, okay.
yeah, but that's the thing, because I'd rolled credits on it, but then there was all that DLC that came out that still lasts like dozens of hours, and it's like, well, I've finished the story now. Why do I need to go back in and spend? It's like finishing watching a TV series and then watching another half of another series, and then you just sort of like leave it. Kind of Assassin's Creed, I know we've talked about before now as well, with a similar sort of.
Well, I had the same thing with Odyssey. Like, I loved that main story. It was so good. And I got the DLC and I was like, oh man, Cassandra's like one of my favourite characters ever. I would do like hours more with her, and then kind of got into it. And I was like, it's just not grabbing me. And I just kind of liked the ending.
Yeah.
I think that what I'm hearing from you guys there is something that really bothers me about games, is especially in these large games, is the amount of side quests and stuff. I just want a main story. I don't need Far Cry to have 17,000 things on the map. And I'm like, and I get some people that are completionists and go, oh yeah, I want to go there, I want to go there, I want to do this. I want to do this in Skyrim, for example. But I'm a main story. Get me through that. Let's go. That's all I need to do. I think that's what I quite liked about Metal Gear Solid 5. And almost in a way where it had like 30 main missions, and I was like, great, game's done. They're all kind of main missions. There are side quests and stuff, but they feel minimal compared to what a lot of big games do now. But then you get to the end of it, it's like, oh, you've got 15 harder missions to do now if you want to. And I was like, oh, come on, man. No, I don't need to. But yeah, I think that when something starts popping up with more side quests, I just shut down.
You tune out.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't need to be here, thanks. You can't make me stay. I guess I just... Oh, sorry.
No, it was all right.
I was just going to say that also, one thing I had thought of was that we have a different twist on this, was not accessing part of a game at all. The original Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2... Warfare 2. I never played the main game. So
really?
I only played the Spec Ops. So shout out to Dwayne, one of my friends from home, and a good friend, and we both played through the Spec Ops together, multiplayer on PS3. I was at university, and I remember like all we cared about was beating the Juggernauts on 3 stars at the end, and then I never played the main game, and also the newest version of Modern Warfare, which is probably one of the last games I played in terms of paying for an actual disc. I also never played the main game. I just played it for the multiplayer.
Interesting.
And I've never accessed the main part of the game, and it's never bothered me.
I usually play Call of Duty games for the single player campaign, and then like back in the day, that like multiplayer a load. But nowadays, like Black Ops, I tend to go back to. Like I have replayed the Black Ops campaign several times over the years for some insane reason.
All I hear is good things. I hear they're great to play through, and like friends would have said to me before, "Oh yeah, have you played through the main game?" And I'm like, "No." And they'd be like, "You should." I'm like, "No, you can't make me."
I had the same thing with GTA 5. That's my shameful one. I was thinking I've got loads of other ones that like I never finished for pettier reasons.
They still count.
Sometimes because I was a bad loser, sometimes because it made me sad. But this one, I don't know why I didn't finish GTA 5's main storyline. I played a few of the missions. I just didn't really get into it. But then we played quite a lot because we were living at opposite ends of the country and stuff, and did a lot of multiplayer.
Yeah.
And got more out of that, I think.
I think that almost GTA 5 Online is now like the more respected part of the game.
I think it's its own thing. It's taken on a life of its own, definitely.
Please bring out GTA 6, guys, soon. Another thing that I've been playing a little bit of, and again we'll review hopefully on the pod at some point, is I just started Liberty City Stories on... episodes from Liberty City. I always get confused on the PSP, and that feels like a more pure GTA experience again with less sidey bits. But even then, hidden packages, all days. That is, waiting.
I never
trying to get
bothered.
them. So it's just. Whereas I used to like to try and get them all, but I remember Grand Theft Auto 3, I think had like 97, and I was like, I knew where they were, just couldn't get them. And that's what. Almost with games, sometimes it puts you off like with a quest like that, because it's almost like if you can't do it and you get most of the way to doing it, and you just can't quite finish it off, you just get angry.
Yeah, it's a reward for your effort, isn't it?
Yeah. So don't
you've
make
spent
it
your
so
time
hard.
on it, and you want to make sure that you get that shiny thing in your apartment, or like flamethrower or whatever on
That's why
GA.
I've never finished Final Fantasy VIII, because that was too hard at the end.
Yeah, but wasn't
All Final Fantasy is hard at the end, though, aren't they?
No, but like I'm used to that, and this was like I'd read that you could like just go through it, and that because most Final Fantasies like you have to grind,
Yeah.
because there are preset levels for all the baddies on the way. But this one, I'd read that it wasn't the case. It scaled with you, and that was true. And I was like, amazing. So I'll just enjoy myself, and I'll just cheese it through.
Level 7.
And I'll get through the story. Yeah, and then I hit like I think it's the sort of penultimate boss, and then she's got this like 999 one hit kill for my like 100 and something HP characters, and there was just no way around it. And I was like, I'm not going back.
You've kind of completed the game. Don't worry
basically?
I
Yeah.
assume
Just
it's Final
Google
Fantasy, so someone dies, there's something tragic. The ending doesn't make any more sense than the rest of the plot. It involved a flying school.
You've done it. It's fine.
belts
Yeah.
were worn.
Yeah, I will never know why they wear so many belts, but you know, that's...
I shamefully did the same sort of thing on Final Fantasy 9, but I just borrowed my friend's save from before Kuja at the end. So I was like, I'm just going to use your levels to jump in and finish the game. Thanks very much.
Yeah,
But you do the
smarter
grind.
harder.
You do the grind. That'd be great. So that's what real friends are for. Using them. I guess at this point, I know obviously we're kind of winding down towards the end of the pod, but I just want to say a couple of thanks and a couple of bits and bats. So,
Yeah, go for it.
so we are on Instagram and Facebook. We have a link tree. I didn't know what that was until last week. And that is where you find, this what kind of podcast we're on.
Oh, yeah. Professional outfit.
Yeah,
We've got
I
a
do.
desk and everything.
Yeah, I know now. And so our links for our podcasts are on there. So probably best thing to be go to our Instagram. So Living La Vita Podcast, and look us up, and our link tree's there, and you can find our podcast on there. Obviously, if you were listening to this, you found our podcast.
Well
so
done.
pass it on. Yeah, that was logical. Another thing is just to say thank you to Fiona for naming the podcast in the first place.
Yeah,
So,
we never gave you a shout out.
Yeah.
It's fine, I'll
should we
take
do another,
royalties when you get big.
doing it.
shall we do another
yeah.
awkward round of applause?
Yeah, let's do it. Go. So, and also, I just wanted to talk about a couple of little bits of feedback that we had for this week from some good friends. Again, nothing on social media. That's fine. Don't worry about that. As long as it comes to our ears through or our digital thumbs, that's not a problem. He's lost it. That beer was strong. And so, thank you very much to the guys who talked to us about how wonderful the pod is, which is really nice of them. I mean, it's easy for me to say that, but it definitely happened.
My personal favourite was "It was fine."
And that's
Cheers, Jack.
That's a
Love you,
5
Jack.
out of 10 recommendation,
I'll
surely.
take 5 out of 10. All
You know,
day.
it's in line with Civ Rev 2.
Yep.
But I think we were told we're too humble. So I want to run these new names of part of the pod past you guys. You both look at me quizzically, but exactly. So how about the humble mumble?
Humble mumble.
Yeah, how about the humble mumble? I don't know what's weird. There's another one. There's one.
All
there,
right,
yeah.
hang on. So what? Humble mumble, like on social media, everybody.
Yeah, that works
basically
well. That's
that.
okay. Yeah, good.
Right,
Yeah, the
okay,
humble mumble.
yep.
And like the humble horse for handheld heroes.
Okay, don't really know what that bit would be about.
Don't know. No idea.
Sounds like something you get arrested for.
I'm just spitting truths here.
No, you're not.
Spitting lies and deceit. So there we go. And I guess the last little bit of feedback was just about sex and how.
Am I in trouble for the boob thing?
Yeah.
I wasn't briefed.
You're off the pod.
You didn't hear the episode about the porn, did you?
I have not caught up yet, I will admit.
Oh no, we've got one of our guests doesn't listen to the pod. But, no, we're going to go back to what we want to say, which is kex or CEX and sex, and that it is in fact definitely called sex by insiders. And our insider who were previous of sex, Sam, told us that there was even people calling each other, I guess, sex slaves. Were the I guess the colleagues, and then It's I can't remember what the overlords or the managers were called. That is the overlords, sex overlords. Who's not a sex overlord?
Sex master, wasn't it? It wasn't like sex master and sex slave.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, so
makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, and thank you for that feedback, Sam, to let us know that and spread that word out. That we should be calling people sex slaves when we go into that shop, which I don't know if they'll get us arrested or not, but...
Do we need to say allegedly at this point? I feel like that's what people normally say.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Our lawyers have instructed us to say...
It's not a lawyer that told you to say sex slave.
Oh, yeah, no, he works in retail. But yeah, and that's it from us this week. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you to Fiona for being a guest on the pod. And hopefully we'll speak to you guys again soon. Bye-bye for now.